Nothing. Hello, it's Kiki, Matteo, and BEP. We're going to chat usual stuff, and we're going to discuss Theresa May and the. Well, we'll start with that. Yeah, Matteo, do you want to start with Theresa May?
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone's been following the Snoopers Charter, but Theresa May is really, really badly plugging it. And basically what it was,
There's always one.
well, I mean that is the kind of warning bell of what is to come. You know,
That
Theresa
did
May is
sound very
really,
much like.
really, huh?
Yeah, that did sound very much like the air raid warning, didn't
It
it? That
sort of
part.
sounded like we set that up, where we were just talking about Theresa May's bill and suddenly just went,
That is reminiscent of what she wants. It's all part and parcel of what they're putting together now. It's all, if people connect the dots, then it's quite horrific. You can
Yeah.
almost times it by 10 by how sadistic you think they are and what levels they'll stoop to, and actually what levels they really are at. They're probably stooped lower than we can actually even imagine. Well,
Yeah, I mean, the Snoopers Charter thing is ridiculous. I was it's funny because I was on actually the RT this today, talking about this
you were.
very thing. Yeah, I was on the
Oh,
RT, and it was funny because they were talking to me about it, and I was basically just saying that it is ridiculous because with the whole thing with Snowden came out, the government is clearly doing this already. It's happening already. What they're doing is this Theresa May thing is just a pathetic way of trying to legalize what they've already done.
what they've already done, yeah. Yeah, we'll do all this crap. We'll have uproar. We'll have somebody over in Russia who's under immense scrutiny. And to be honest, if he went back to America, possibly be put in Guantanamo and shot and tortured and all sorts.
I
It's
wouldn't
not
say possibly. I would say it's pretty
a
dark.
hundred. Oh, they did torture some folks, didn't they? It's not. They're not the nicest of chaps, but from what point he's gone to, the fact that they are totally just basically it's in the same way that they are with the paedophile thing. It's like, hang on, we'll just legalise sex with a 4-year-old, and that way any of us that got done with it previously, it'll already be legal. No different. They
Yeah,
just do
yeah.
that.
I mean, that's the point. They do the thing wrong first. They get discovered, but they think, oh, damn, right, we got discovered. Let's try and make it legal. And that's what Theresa May is doing. But what's worse is, on top of that, they're going to have a power they didn't have before, which was to shut down your free speech. And I
Yeah.
mean, the email thing is not something that worries me particularly, not because I don't like it. The emails, texts, phone calls, and so forth. It's because it happens already. It's not something that you can say, oh, I don't want it to happen, because you can guarantee that most of the emails that you send out, even the most boring ones, are probably in the database somewhere. Most probably in the email. And that's just the way things are going to stay. But what's worrying is the freedom of information. The
Mm.
fact that they're going to be able to remove your freedom of speech. The idea that you can go out in public and talk, the idea that you can go out to protest, the idea that you can go out to any event without prior government notice. And although they're saying this is to stop ISIS radicalization, I say bollocks to that. It's nothing to do with ISIS. If they wanted to stop ISIS radicalization, what they need is more education in schools. I seriously think the problem is that this is a lack of education in schools. Not because education is not indoctrination, that's just a completely different topic altogether. But the fact
Yeah.
that schools completely and utterly avoid talking about religion and talking about the radicalization of people using religion, because religion is a massive tool. It can manipulate so many people because it gives people complete and utter faith into an individual, which may or may not have your best interests at heart.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's lack of knowledge on and information from a very young age, and a lot of people I speak to will sit there, and I said the other day, I sat at the school the other day, and I said, "Oh, you do know that with this kind of bill that what they're going to do eventually is they'll push national service, compulsory national service, almost like Israel. So this brainwashing in schools, this whole let's get religious education in schools." That's not the kind of religious education they want, because that will be for English. As I can't remember who it was, Nicky Morgan or one of them wanted to adopt English values into teaching. Well, that's purely what that I believe that's going to be used for, is an indoctrination waiting for national service. So kids are like, yeah, let's get in the army, let's go slaughter some terrorists.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you are the terrorists. Yeah, it's
I
horrible.
mean,
Isn't
that's like
it?
that's what used to happen, where they used to think that Christianity was the way forward, that the British the British gentleman, the British ideal was the ideal. Everybody else was a savage. You know, it was fine to enslave them. It was fine to treat them this way because they are savages. We are civilized, and that's the way they used to see it. And that kind of ideal is coming back in the sense that, you know, oh, ISIS, these horrible beings, these horrible, disgusting creatures that are destroying. Yes, they are. You know, the organization is a horrible organization. But our army aren't the cleanest of armies either. And
But yeah,
from a reality
even Christianity has a horrific past record. Since you know,
yeah.
Hitler was a Christian, wasn't he? Didn't it Christian values that caused the Holocaust?
Well, the Pope would probably say he was a different part
The
of
whole
Christianity, but
of any religion on a few extremists, and I think something like suicide bombers and extreme Muslims is only something like 0.000% of the Muslim community that have actually gone out, if that, you know. So you're talking a relatively small figure, but highly demonized religion, and it's one of the biggest religions, if not the biggest religion in the world. You know, you don't judge Christianity on Westboro Baptist Church, so why are you judging anybody else's religion on extremists? You know.
Well, when you look at it, we do sit there and we say, oh, you know, we go on about this terrorism, but when you look at what kind of builds this world and how populated we are in the Western society, the West are actually deemed by more of the countries in more area as terrorists than these people we propose to be terrorists in the first place. They all think we're terrorists. The West just go in and pillage and destroy what they want and take over. Look at this Ebola. I'm sorry, but what it's looking like is a very, very good way of A, earning money from vaccines, and B, they've now got troops in where they want them. They've got the troops where they want them once again. They're everywhere. We're everywhere. We're like little parasites as the West. Proper parasites. Parasite terror.
Quite quick to point the finger at religion as being the root cause of all these things. And most attacks and like 9/11, if you believe the official story, anything like that, they are more political based than religious based. We say that it's religious extremists, but actually most religious extremists have political agendas. It's a political issue that they're either in occupied or attacked land or something like that. You know, they tend to have a political issue that they're fighting against, not really just religion. It's not really nothing to do with the religion. That's just whitewashing. They have a religion, but they have political disagreements. They have political grievances.
I mean, the way I see it is, I mean, if you look at religion, to me, religions are like businesses. They're not inherently bad or good in a sense. You know, businesses go after profit. That's what they do. That's what they're meant to do. It could be for good reasons, or it could be for bad reasons. Religion is there to indoctrinate people. You know, it makes people believe in something so they have hope. That's all it does. Where you have a good leader, it can do positive things. I mean, look at Buddhism, for example. It hasn't really started many wars. Yes, it indoctrinates people to believe in something, but the point is that it can be used for good. Christianity and Islam and so forth and Western religions tend to always be used for whatever reason to indoctrinate people into bad things. I mean, look at the Crusades, for example. We just went over there and slaughtered women and children like you can't imagine in the Middle East. The other thing is you've got to understand is that there is a reason why things like ISIS are becoming so popular in the Middle East, because all you're seeing is foreign soldiers treating your land like complete and utter crap, killing your children, killing your neighbors, destroying your land, and taking all the resources that land has for their own, leaving you in immense poverty.
How long can these countries go? And these children, you think these children and these generations, we've waged war on them for how many years? We've been in their country, we've been bombing them, we've been hurting them, we've been bringing them back as refugees and then attacking them with pure racism. Do you know what I mean? Or religionism, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's pretty much the same. You pretty much destroy them for years and years and years, and then wonder why this generation has gone all psychotic and all killy on our ass. Do you know what I mean? It's only so long.
We've dragged them back. We've dragged them back generations. You know, the 70s, Afghanistan was a completely different country. You know, you've got to think that some of the greatest things in modern world today has been invented by Muslims and the ancient Muslims. You know what I mean? They're maths and things like that we have today that we use. Afghanistan in the 70s was quite hot on women working, on people dressing quite Western and having scientists and being
It looked quite
cosmopolitan.
well, yeah, very
But
well.
you see, for me, it's not. You see, for me, that wasn't so much Muslims building something. That was the Arab people building something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way the Arab world was going. I mean, we were still massively. You know, if you look in the Middle Ages, we were in war with the East even back then. You know, in the Middle East. And what you saw was a deeply Christian, backward Europe. You know, Christendom, what we used to call it, which was waging war against these people that were moving away from religion. You know, the Muslims weren't, I mean, the Arabs weren't that united in regards to their religion. They were more about science. They were more about expanding their technology. They were about maths and science and innovation and so forth. And that just sort of carried on going. And as you said, if you look at a picture of some of those countries in the 70s and now, you know, now women can't go out without covered in black. Before they were like in the West, they had the same amount of freedom and the same amount of ability to do what they want. The trouble is that you're always going to have extremists in society, and the way I see what we've done in the Middle East is the equivalent of China, for example, destabilizing our government, putting Nick Griffin as prime minister, and putting the BNP as our cabinet, as our permanent cabinet, and removing all elections. And by the way, giving them a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of weapons. That's what we've done. We've taken
the smaller people to mine and as slave labour, and they'll never get anywhere in life. But how many orphans do you think they made in the like 50s and 60s and 70s? How many orphans do you think they made that really are pissed off that they've lost their parents? They've lost their siblings, they've lost their family. You could grow up to be, they've lived in anger, destruction, wars, bombs, rape, everything, day
Well,
out.
let's face it, you've got whole areas of Iraq where the children are being born with deformities and limbs missing and high leukemia and high death rates in children. That sort of shit is going to cause some grudges. You know, when you're seeing that all around you and people dying horribly, you know, of radiation or whatever, depleted uranium chemicals and that, you are going to hold bitter grudges. There's some pain you don't get over.
We banned smacking in the UK for what reason? Because smacking only taught the child to hit back. And violence doesn't solve anything. So what makes us think that sending missiles and attacking these people is right? It's never right. It's never going to be right. It's always going to be wrong.
It's like the whole Israel-Palestine sort of thing, you know, where, you know, you may argue is Hamas right or wrong. Doesn't really matter. I mean, yes, Hamas are a potential terrorist organization. Call them what you want. Even if we go by the rhetoric of what they say. You know, they say it's a terrorist organization, blah, 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 etc. Israel is a state with a hell of a lot more power. It should rise above a terrorist organization, if they are that, and saying, you know what, we're going to work with the Palestinian people because we are sharing this land, you know, and they should move forward that way. They should progress. It shouldn't be, they shot a rocket at us and we're going to bomb the living daylights out of them just to show them a lesson. You know, that's going to create so much anger. It's like Gigi was saying, you know, the idea that how many people they have created with an absolute hate for the West. Not only that, these people don't have families. They have been orphaned. They have been destroyed. There is nothing left for them on this earth. So for them, they're thinking, obviously, I mean, is this really it? Is this all my life's ever going to come to? And then afterwards, if a religious man with his own agenda comes up to you and says, well, no, you could get seven virgins or 100 virgins, however it is, in heaven. Or you could get the life you wanted in heaven if you do nothing but attack the West and go to war with the West. Of course they're going to say yes. Because it's sorting out their sort of anger and vengeance towards the West, and it's giving them the life that they've wanted, a normal life. And that they can't have on this earth because we have absolutely obliterated any chance they could possibly have of doing that. On top of that, we also make...
They say don't they say that countries say like the South America and places like that are more likely to survive because they've got the resources and they've got the ways of life. If there was ever a collapse, they would be. Doesn't it feel like what the West is doing is literally ripping the Middle East resources away? So then, if a collapse does happen, no matter where, then they'll be just as on the same level as us, or not, well, even lower, because we've slaughtered half of them now anyway, haven't we? You know, but this depopulation agenda, it's just not happening. You know, when we're going on about this Ebola, or they're dying, I think it's triple the amount of people that die per day who are born. So that's just it doesn't make sense on that being a depopulation agenda. But in the same way, I do wonder what these vaccines will once again do to the future, because we've pumped them with vaccines, and we've done exactly the same to the Middle East. We've gone in there and gone, right, now you can't do that, now you can't do that, now you can't do that, you're not allowed to go there, we're going to build this big gas building here, sorry about killing your mum and dad, sorry about, you know, but it's all for the good of humanity. And terrorism, where are those terrorists? Oh, CIA, that was it.
Yeah.
So we're fucking terrorists. We've created these people, these angry people, but I don't think we should be able. We have absolutely no right as Western terrorists to accuse them of terrorists.
Yeah, yeah. The one thing I would say though is in regards to South America, and even Australia and New Zealand for that matter, the reason why they're hardly ever in the news, because let's be honest, we never talk about South America, hardly ever, is for me because South America have become their own power block in the sense that they are disgusted with the way the US and the West deal with the world. They have united themselves together with all their countries, and you know, it's like when when the British police tried to storm the Ecuadorian embassy, you know, to get Assange. All of the South American countries said if Britain dares storm a sovereign embassy, we will go to war with Britain. And we came this close because of William Hague's idiocy. Now the point is that they are united, and we can't touch them.
No. And that's what we need to be, is united. And even if half of Britain can't unite because they are deeply in some comatose state of patriotism, I'm not sure what it is right now, but you know, even if they can't unite, then at least the least we can do is show that we can. That's the least we can do. Just drop our differences. Just really seriously drop our differences. You know, who cares if I spell England wrong? Who cares if I bloody I'm sorry, I bought something that wasn't right and it was in the background and it shaped a triangle. I am sorry. Do you know what I mean? Just move on. We are all fighting for the same thing. If we can unite, because Britain, that's one thing we don't do and we can't do. We can't unite. Don't unite. Don't unite. It's dangerous.
But yeah, no, I mean it is worrying. It is seriously worrying when you think about it like that. You know, that we can't unite and that. But the thing is that I don't believe we can't, because we can. People are doing it around the world, and we're not different to them. You know, we're humans. We have the same amount of ideals. You know, there are people that are of the right, there are people that are of the left. Doesn't really matter. The point is that they have done it. Again, though, it's the same argument that we're actually at the heart of capitalist society.
The thing is, activists have managed to unite globally. We've managed to unite with each other globally in terms, but there's still some form of divides going on. But I do believe, I'm not being paranoid when I say this, I do believe there are certain people out there within activist movements meant to cause these divides, because you know that'd be the perfect way to do that anyway. But when you watch people go about their business and they're fighting about these little things, you think, how did this fight start? What are you doing? What the hell are you on? And they're so busy dragging each other down, they're not actually fighting anymore. What are they fighting for? Do you think they wake up one day as an activist? You know, when you think activism, we want to change the world, we want to make the world a better place, we want to make the place greener, we want animals to survive, we want humanity, we want no more wars, we want that's all we want. We want everything to be nice and kind. And do you think one day they wake up in the morning and think, oh shit, I forgot to be kind? Because that's what's going on at the minute. People aren't being kind to each other.
Some people don't care about being kind. Some people care about getting the money. Where's the money?
Mm.
Show me the money. And they'll, you know, you have kids that kill their parents to get inheritance. Do you know what I mean?
But I mean within activism. I'm within activism because
But
I don't think right now we can take that step to changing people's consciousness and making them better people if we can't even do that ourselves as a collective.
But each individuals have their own battles to bear and their own things to overcome, and what in society, you know, like people with, it's be nice if we could go away and get a camp and set up and try an alternative way of life. People have children, people have commitments, and you know, we can all do but what we can try and do. But I think this is a battle of minds, and I think that's they're coming down so hard because it. Once you change that mindset, once you open that way of thinking up to alternative ways, it's very hard to go back on. And I think they're really panicking about the information out here and alternative views and, you know, everything from Ebola, you know, that bloke taking that nurse on the plane, it was highlighted straight away, he didn't have a mask on, who was this bloke, where did he work from? That's people spotting it, you know, and they're under scrutiny at every single step of the way. You've got thousands of people watching and analysing everything they say. They're bound to want to shut it down. They're bound to want to shut it up.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right.
In these days can't fart without us knowing they're farting, and they, you know, I know that they get away with a lot. They are getting away with a hell of a lot still that we don't know about and working in circles. But it's only going to be so long before, you know, each thing that they do is just blown out into the open. It's only going to be so long.
Yeah, I mean. All right. No, I think you're 100% right. You know, I think one of the biggest blows was one of the whole things of Edward Snowden, you know, which did blow up hugely as to telling people what was going on. And the second one was, I think, with the whole Palestine and Gaza. I think you're right in the sense that we are still uniting as a global human, you know, ideal, as opposed to fighting these what they consider to be barbarous, you know, individuals that aren't really human but more monsters, which is where we should be seeing them. So they're obviously panicking, and I think this whole thing with Theresa May is a sort of really, really desperate reaction against that.
Oh, totally. Her little speech is like the fucking clappers at the minute, because do you know what I mean? The ludicrous things they're coming out with and getting away with it. They'll get away with it so.
But they're not getting away with it. They're not getting away with it.
That's the thing. They're not.
6% people support that. 6%. That'll never go through. Never.
I mean, even conservatives don't. Even conservatives don't support it.
This is a revolution of conscience, and you know, real conscience. You know, people are going to change their way of thinking that they're going to be very hard to hoodwink again. You know,
and to wonder how long it'll take before the politicians really get sick of being memed. You know, because they're just like getting ripped to shreds all over the internet. There's no keeping it off the mainstream now. I'm sorry, but I have images of Farage with his hands down his pants because someone photoshopped his head onto somebody's body, and I just think that will stick with me forever. And thousands of people have seen that, thousands. And how long could you put up with that? They're getting memed daily. They're getting absolutely memed, and you just think, stop destroying us, because we'll only come back with comedy half the time, because we can't fight back. We can't fight back with our fists. We can fight back with knowledge, intelligence, comedy, humour, and self-awareness. That's all we can fight back with.
But sometimes that's the best form of attack. You know, ridiculing someone to the point where they can't even take themselves seriously, because if you Google their name, some crap comes up. You know, that's the best way of attacking somebody, because then they can't take themselves seriously, and then their leadership gets destroyed. It's like the idea of, you know, where, you know, what you're talking about, it's all about education. It is about education. Because you can take someone's property away, you can take someone's money away, you can take someone's kids away, you can take someone's haircut, you can take someone's whatever. You can't take away someone's knowledge. You can't stop them from learning. You can stop them from learning. You can't stop them from unlearning something. You can't tell them, forget this.
I'm sure if there was a way
to that person, they will never forget it, because they can't. It's a physical thing. Once you know something, you can't forget it.
No. No, and the thing is, when you've got it, I think that is the whole main case. I think collectively they are going to try and stunt our learning developments and our social developments, emotional developments, everything. I think they're going to attempt to stunt all of it within school, within work, within college, within every step along the way. They do it from the age of 2. You know, they do it from before that age through the parent because they've done it, you know, 30 years before. And they've kept doing this, and now there's little things popping up. And I don't think even they noticed these little things were going to keep popping up, you know, where we've noticed you had your flower power movement. We're not going to stick flowers in guns. This is different. We're not going to stick flowers in guns. We're going to take you down from the system that you created yourself because you're flawed. And that's what it is. They're flawed.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite funny because, I mean, the flowers and guns are so sad because they thought that you could generally change people with love and compassion and so forth. When in reality, it's not violence. That's definitely not the option. But it's an idea of, you know, ignoring the system and saying, well, we don't like it. We're not going to try and change it in a friendly manner. We're just going to create a parallel. And then eventually people just jump over because it just makes so much more sense. Because the more people, I mean, I was talking to a taxi driver today, for example, right? And he said that he was never interested in politics. And he just didn't care much because of all the politicians and so forth. And he was saying that he was actually Googling loads of different things, and, you know, Googling, and I was telling him about, you know, the documentary and whatnot, and he was like, oh, Anonymous, and Occupying that, I know them. And he was like, I just found out, I've seen some of their videos and stuff, and it was quite funny, because this guy had no interest in politics whatsoever, but yet he was starting to look these things up.
Yeah.
Because of it.
We're forever booking
fun.
taxi drivers. Aren't we, Kiki? Me and Kiki
Yeah.
are all booking into taxi drivers that like a bit of an on. They love it. We get some DVDs.
And this is the thing, yeah. When we go out, especially when we go out together, and I do it alone. I know P does it alone as well. We are like walking, talking, leaflets and brochures for Anonymous and the movement and everything. Anything that comes out of anyone's mouth, if you've got the knowledge there and you can turn around and go, you know, they're going, oh, I'm going to buy this. You don't want to buy that. That's Zionist. Do you know what I mean? It's like a constant bear of, you know, feed it, live it, live it. This is the thing, live it. Don't just say it, live it every day, because that's all that I think about, because I really, really do depend on a better change. That's all I think about, because I will not buy into this system. And I won't allow my children to buy into this system. So for the hope of humanity, I really do think that people need to start listening, because one way or another, somebody's going to fall and going to need help, you know. And I think it's going to be us in camps. I think it's going to be the other way around.
I'm quite positive. The Theresa May thing may seem like something quite horrendous, but I think it's actually quite a positive thing.
Yeah, it won't go through.
It shows how bloody desperate they are.
It does. It shows that we're winning.
Yeah.
And all of these around the world, these tiny little things that keep, you know, they keep trying to press onto us. It shows that they are losing their grasp. And, you know, like Russell Brand's coming under fire again, hasn't he, with him from the Sex Pistols for saying not to vote again. But I actually agree with that. When I fill out my registration form to register to vote, I am consenting to be governed. We are governed in this country by consent. And what I feel like I'm doing is withdrawing my consent. And if enough of us withdraw our consent and it falls below 50% that are consenting, we can then challenge the government and say, well, you know, there's 51%. It's you know, not giving you consent. So I know they'll find a way around it, because that's what they do. They write the rules to fit themselves.
I don't think voting will achieve anything. I think that the system will be brought down out of voting. I think that the voting system will be brought down altogether. Possibly, I'm optimistic to think that this will be the last vote. I really do. I'm optimistic, because I think that people aren't going to put up with this no more, and especially if Conservatives come back in after all the damage, after all the disabled people they've killed.
I mean,
when you put it in layman's terms, I'm sorry, they've killed disabled people. They've been homophobic. They've been racist. They've been fascist. They've been money grabbing. They've pushed people to commit suicide, and they're disgusting little tyrants. And if they come back in, I really don't see there being another vote.
Oh, that's something I do have.
I mean, that'd be rigged if there was another. If they came back in, that'd be rigged.
That Lord, oh, whatever his name was. What was his name?
Lord Ash.
Was it Lord Feud? But he said that disabled people should be paid £2 an hour. Now let's get this right. Right, the minimum
hour.
Disabled, yeah. Minimum wage is what the government deems the minimum people need to live on. That is the lowest standard you should be paying someone, right? Not
they're subhuman.
Able-bodied. That's the lowest anybody, because anybody on minimum wage will struggle. Do you know what I mean? You can't then say, well, if you've got Down syndrome, we're going to pay you £2.50, because that Down syndrome needs care. He needs probably medical supplies. He needs
more money.
A lot more, yeah, medical things. And you know that it's disgusting that in this day and age, how much humanity is lost because of profit. It's not profitable to be humane, because as a society and a civil civilization, humanity should be the number one thing. Is this humane should be the first question we ask, not is this profitable. Is this humane? Will let people get hurt? Are people in danger? You know.
I think the problem is we've been living in the opposite. We've been living in it's all about profit, and now our consciences are telling us it's all about life and caring for each other and you know, stepping lightly on everything that we do, because at the minute the only thing that we are as a human race right now as we stand is a parasite on the earth. We don't give nothing to it. We don't give nothing to this earth, nothing whatsoever.
No, we don't.
For me, I completely agree, but I disagree with the voting thing. In regards to, for me personally, I think that the system is set up in such a way that it's almost like if you work within the system, it is incredibly easy to change, and they would just be swept off the carpet. Because for me, if you don't vote, and if everybody didn't vote, all they would say is the British people are either too ignorant, therefore they are not trusted to vote, exactly what they did not many years ago. They just removed people's right to vote, and then obviously we fought back for it. Or they would just say, well, they're happy with the way things are, because the Conservatives and Labour are always going to have their brainwashed cronies that are always going to vote for them. And the trouble is that we outnumber them, but we don't vote. And if you, for example, if you look at some constituencies in London, for instance, you got over 60% that don't vote. If those suddenly voted for an independent or an activist, you'd suddenly get half of Parliament.
But you can't get activist standing because the cost, you know, even the bureaucracy, the paperwork, the bullshit that goes with it. You know, you said that you helped out in the office, and you see the sort of like complaints that the other people would throw at you all the time and things like that. As an independent, you don't know them rules, and you don't have like an agent that can help you with all that stuff. You're very much on your own, so it's extremely stacked against independents. But I mean, some independents have got through because of their status, like George Galloway when he, you know, I can't remember what happened there.
He created his own little party around himself, didn't he?
Yeah, but he got kicked
a party, hasn't he?
He's got the Respect Party.
That's it, yeah.
I think he left a party. He was a member of a party, I think, and then he left it and stood as an independent. But I think it was like around about the same time as that Bell as well. Is it Bell?
But you know, I mean,
I don't know. I'm loud gabbling.
But you see, I mean, the thing about it is, again, is that you know, we talk about activists being alone, fighting their own campaign. Again, there are more of us than there is of them. So why should someone have to be alone to stand? Because that's another thing. And this is what you think. You got to look at left and right. You know, if you forget the main party, because they're sort of in the middle and about corporate interests and whatnot. But if you look at the right, you've got UKIP. Full stop. You don't hear about the BNP anymore. The EDL support UKIP. You know, it's all UKIP. That's what they put their money on. If you look at the left, we've got Left Unity, we've got Occupy, we've got Anonymous, We've just got hundreds of organisations in between that. We've got the Green Party. We've got the People's Assembly. We've got something else. We've got the unions. We've got Labour.
But we've got no unity.
That's the point. That's what I'm saying. When you look at the right, you've got UKIP. If you're a right-wing nutter, you know exactly who to vote for. You know exactly where to go for help. You know exactly where to go for funding.
And it's trying to get a bunch of crazy ass minds together, because we're all fucked, we're all crazy, we're all like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and we've got so much hope and looking out for the future that I don't think any of them can actually band together sort of to a point, because your life is filled with craziness constantly. Everything's crazy, everything feels crazy. You have to admit, you walk out your front door, you see something, you think, that's crazy. And it does. The world just seems so crazy, and so you just get yourselves together and go, right, I'm going to do this. Let's all, because what, can you go on air and actually turn around and say, right, everyone, let's vote the Green Party, right? Everyone, every activist, just vote the Green Party just to get them in. Once they're in, let's hope they're weak and we can overthrow them. Because that's all activists are thinking. They're not, we don't want this system at all. It's just the whole system. So even if we voted for somebody, the system itself we want gone. Well, the majority. I don't
Once you vote in, you can dismantle parliament.
Huh?
The point is that once you vote someone in, if you have them, if for example the Green Party are the majority and their manifesto was, we're going to get elected to dismantle Parliament, dismantle first past the post, and rebuild something better, whatever that may be. You know, once you have a majority in Parliament, you can do what the hell, because Parliament is sovereign in this country. You control Parliament. You can do whatever you want in this country. You can paint it blue if you want to. You know, for them, you know, that's that Parliament has that legitimacy that they can do whatever they want. And the thing is, the way I see activists at the moment is like, if you take us three, for example, if we had a £9 budget, the way the activists would normally, I mean, from the left, it'll be, I'll take £3, you take £3, he would take £3. And then we'll go around and do our own little whatever it is. With UKIP instead, they get that whole £9, and with that, you can do a lot more than just by dividing it, because you got the unions, you got People's Assembly, you got Green Party, which all have their own budgets, which on their own don't see much, although the People's Assembly, I heard, gets quite a lot. The point is that all independently, they get so much. Instead, with UKIP, their donors go to one place, and that's why UKIP has got so much money. It's ridiculous the amount of money that they get.
Yeah, but activists would send it. They'd be like, "Oh, look at this money. Let's go open an orphanage." It's just so. I think it's hard, isn't it, to try and work within the system when all you preach to yourself is do not pay into the system. Don't do it. Pay into it. And I think that might be what's stopping people from doing anything or moving with. I do get what you're saying. I get what P's saying. I actually have no real opinion on it, to be honest. I don't know what, until like literally the day before, I don't know what I'm going to do. I try not to plan anything. I don't know. It'll be what my gut tells me at that time. If I vote, I'll vote because my gut has told me the day before that I need to vote. Or if I don't vote, it's because I've decided I don't want to vote for some reason at some point. But I can't make that decision like so far in advance. It's like, I don't know.
I mean,
and I would say that I probably
an issue.
All us know,
I'd probably be.
Needs to have a party at Parliament Square the whole frigging polling day. We just occupied Parliament Square. Every time the news crew trying to do their bit, we'd be like there with our don't votes. We're not consenting.
Being egged by UKIP, they'll be getting his own back.
Busy voting at their things, doing their voter walks at the polling station.
The voter op.
I definitely won't be at home.
The politicians will all be doing their photo ops at the ballot box.
Photo ops. Yeah, of course. Look, we're here of the people, for the people, all that rubbish.
Yeah. Because you know what, they'll promise you the world, right up till you put that little kiss in their box, and then they'll be like, fuck off.
So how illegal is it to run on, grab the camera while it's on live, and actually start running around with it? Don't do it! Don't! Catch it! Woo!
Probably if you drop it, you'd be in big shit. That'd be criminal damage, vandalism.
You just got, yeah, and those cameras cost a hell of a lot of money.
Who's the fastest runner out of all of us then?
I don't know. I'm not very fast, but I used to be a cross-country runner. I could run a long way.
Right, you're taking the camera.
You go for distance then. You can keep it going for longest.
I tell you what, if someone's chasing me, I'll go pretty fucking fast.
I'll do the crazy freak him out.
If Kiki's got a spider behind her, she'll be boom, flash.
Yeah, gone. See ya. And the worst thing is, because I don't want to kill it, because I love all life, I just don't want to look at it because it's creepy as fuck. So it's like, oh god, just run.
Why are spiders so creepy? I just can't handle it.
Horrible, aren't they?
I think we're designed to be scared of them because they're poisonous.
But I've caught their legs. I've caught their legs in a glass before and felt utter shame. Oh my god, I've disabled it for life. How's it gonna live? So it's not like I hate it. I just can't be near it. I don't want to breathe its air or anything. Like go outside.
I don't hate you, but I just don't want to be anywhere near where you are. So.
And they're getting bigger and bigger. It's like all these people with it in the mirror, they don't realise what damage they're doing to me psychologically over this. It's like, I really don't want to know about it. I'd rather not know. I don't care. These spiders, and then someone comes out and says, we've been living with them spiders for 20 years. It's like, cheers, thanks for that as well. That made me feel so much better. For 20 years, I've dodged death from like the spider that's fangs can't penetrate human skin.
I don't think there's anything that can actually kill you in the UK. We've got some of the most harmless wildlife ever.
Daddy longlegs are the most poisonous.
Really?
But I grab them. I'm alright with them. I'll hold them.
Deadly venom, but they've got no ability to administrate. They've got no strength.
The only food they're the most poisonous.
So if you eat them, then you'll be in trouble.
I think so. I don't know. You eat 8 spiders a lifetime.
How many?
8. Because when you're in bed and your mouth's open, it's quite moist, and if they fancy a little drink, they might come down and have a little drink. And you might breathe it in, so you'll eat about 8 in your lifetime.
So what if you accidentally eat daddy longlegs? Really? Is it poisonous? Would you die from it? I'm not the vet daddy longlegs. Wouldn't there be more on TV saying, surely it's got to be
daddy longlegs.
Watch your kids on the ground, don't let them eat daddy longlegs.
I think there's a reason why most of these channels. I think there's a reason why most of these channels, you know, the like geographical channels are always in Australia. You know, where absolutely everything will kill you. The cutest thing there will kill you.
Well, koala bears have chlamydia. You get chlamydia of koala bears.
I don't want to know how anybody found that out. I do not want to know how anybody found that out.
Well, Denmark just banned it.
Or at least that's what all the cheaters tell their missus. I was snuggling a koala bear, I promise.
You know, apparently they're drunk 90% of the day. Koala bears.
They what? Sleep.
Koala bears are drunk 90% of the day. Drunk.
That's why it's chlamydia.
Probably.
That is, yeah. That's how
because they eat
drunk koalas.
Some of the food that they choose to eat has an intoxicant that is equivalent to alcohol for us.
Yeah.
But because they eat it, they ingest that toxin, which makes them, which gives them the same semblance of us being drunk. So it's like if your food source was bread and it was laced with vodka, and that's all you had to eat. You'd be plastered 24/7.
At the end of summer, when that fruit falls off the trees, the apples and things like that, you get a period of angry drunk wasps because they go and eat it and it starts to turn to alcohol. Last year, I think one of the papers did a headline that they're drunk, they're angry, and they're invading a barbecue near you.
Oh my god! Did you hear about the guy, by the way, the beekeeper, that had the bees attend his funeral? just to talk about.
Oh,
Did you see that? Did you hear about that? He basically there was this beekeeper and he died quite recently. It was in the metro, and it just shows how connected. You know, people say that you can't get connected to insects. You know, animals are just animals. Well, that's complete bollocks. You can connect to anything, and this story proves it. What was amazing is that they buried him, and suddenly the family reported to hear a really really loud buzzing sound. It was the sound of I think it was about 10 swarms. They had about 10 nests of bees just coming towards them. That must have looked terrifying, seeing this sort of black cloud of bees just coming. And they just swarmed around the grave while he was being put into the grave. And they remained there and they created their nests next to where he was buried. And they're still there.
Oh, it's amazing.
oh,
I thought that was really touching. Really, really touching.
yeah,
There's a man
yeah.
who helped elephants in Africa, and when he died, loads of elephants just kept coming through the land, walking. They all come by to pay their respects, like they knew he died. It's amazing. It's just
That's amazing.
Everywhere, we're just coming.
I mean, we don't see
Yeah.
that.
It's
I
the
mean, we
we are.
don't see that connection. Because we think, oh, well, these animals are just dumb animals. You know, they're not. There is a connection that these animals can have, and they do have feelings, they dream, etc. You know, they're not that different to us. Just because we
I'll
have
admit I bought on
complex
a cat
communication.
lady. I believe that there's connections. I do like cats, but I'm single. I like cats. No.
That's why I think it's a kind of next step on when you get into activism is like vegetarianism and actually looking at other, looking past yourself. That's why it's a conscious revolution, really, because it's about getting past your own little thing and looking beyond into everything.
When my Gwen was my cat was giving birth, she was literally holding my hand, like her paw, the whole time, and I physically had to wait to give birth till I went to the toilet because she had to come with me. So I was like just sitting there desperate for the toilet because she kept trying to get out because she did not want to leave my side, and she's pawing my hand every time she's having like a little contraction and that, and then I helped her like and everything because it was her first birth, and then she kind of like just so close to her, just really close. Now every time I look at her, I'm like, oh, look at you, mummy cat, oh, look at you. And I felt that I shared something special with my cat, and she really appreciated me being there because I think she really did, and that bond has been lost because a lot of time they'll say a cat will find a quiet space and want to be on its own. No, it won't. If you've got a connection with it, it doesn't always. Sometimes it doesn't want to be on its own. It might just not feel. All my cats have come home to die as well. They've always made sure I've seen them somewhere.
That's not the best thing, but yeah. I mean, you hear a lot of stories. There was also a guy that had a really, really close relationship with a polar bear, for example. Just on weird stories, you can see. I think you can see it on YouTube. I don't know if you saw it. He was a scientist / biologist that was working up in the Arctic. A polar bear invaded his camp, and it went into his tent, but it didn't attack him. And he ended up. He talked a little bit about how the story of how their friendship started, but he now lives with him in the northern parts of Canada. And they were just talking, like the bear was just sitting there and he was stroking, and they were like playing around and so forth, and he was swimming with the bear in the pool and all this kind of stuff, and it was bizarre. Like you just see this animal in the water. He looked like about, I don't know, polar bears look like about four men, sort of stacked together. It's bloody huge. And you sort of think how this bear's supposed to be one of the most aggressive animals in existence at the moment.
Yeah, because they did take that young lad out of his tent, didn't they? Mutilated him, that polar bear, that camper. I can't.
They're incredibly aggressive. They're supposed to be incredibly aggressive.
Yeah. I think there is a connection you can have with animals because I swear I used to like looking when one of my cats, he did come home when he got hit by a car, and I had to take him to the hospital, and I did to the vet. Sorry, he's not human. I had to take him to the vets, and we're driving along. I'm just looking at him, and I'm just, talking to him and all that, and his heartbeat just got lower and lower and lower, and he'd survived 3 days at the side of a shed, And it wasn't until he was with me for like 10 minutes and then he just went and I was like, oh God, he waited for me. I was like, I can't believe it. But I do think that there's connections with cats, definitely. And animals, all animals. I think that you have a connection with animals.
I mean, well, I was certainly was taught that animals weren't as clever as us. They didn't use tools, and they basically they were a bit not stupid, really. They didn't really, you know. And then when you get past that and you actually start looking at animals, you can see that they are capable of so much more than we would have ever been taught, you know, at school or things like that. I mean, I've watched like crows that will throw nuts on the road and they'll wait for the traffic light to change. So that the cars will crush the nuts, and then when the traffic lights change again, they know that the cars will stop and they swoop down and get the open nuts. That's using a tool.
Yeah.
You know, and that's using a tool. And yeah, monkeys use tools. You see so many things. I think we like to be arrogant and think that we're, you know, above animals, but they think like us. They have a conscious awareness, without a doubt. They want to.
If we're going to get into that, if we're going to get deep into that, if you think about it, if we were supposed to be on a higher conscience and all connected as one, we wouldn't have to speak to each other, which is what animals do. They don't speak to each other because they communicate through their own channels, and that, which is possibly, we are actually lower conscience than some of these animals, I believe, because they can still connect with each other and they still have instincts, like salmon, like all these kind of things. I think they have instincts, and I think that's what we always is instinct.
But
what
I think
interesting
lost us we were taught to talk. You know, we the language we use in the alphabet and the phonics and all that sort of thing, that's all very commerce. That was, you know, brought in by Egypt and things like that with the trades and what have you. We needed to be able to communicate better, you know, as we developed. But I think we have given up our intuition in return for vocal conversation.
I mean, what I find interesting is the idea of, you know, where we say, okay, we look at animals and, you know, they can't use doors, they don't understand certain things that in the human world and so forth. But if you took a human being that had never met Western culture, for example, and you put him in a building, I'm pretty sure he'd get stuck there for quite some time. You wouldn't know how a light works and so forth, because
does anybody else get rotating door fear? No, because I do.
But you know that kind of thing, because you do get taught this stuff. You may not think you do, but it is taught to you at some stage in your life when you're very young. You're taught how a light works indirectly. You're taught how. So if you talk about animals, they're living in outside. The only difference is that if an animal and a human child were put outside in the wilderness, the human child would die simply because they can't survive in the wild, because they don't have that ability to deal with being outside, to find shelter, to live with food, etc. Whereas the baby animal has a much better chance of survival simply because it has instinct, it has that knowledge.
Yeah.
So we are smarter in a different way, but they're much smarter in another way. You know, and
I would say that way is more
one over another.
I would possibly be more worried about not being able to survive than being able to open a door with my hand, my opposable thumbs. But and when
one relies on this system surviving, whereas if everything crumbled, a duck, for example, would just walk out and say, "See you later." You know, I'm gonna go and forage again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, shit.
Yeah, I don't think we're fully prepared. It's like I can sit there and say, because I have to admit I've got stuff just in case things do happen, you know, because when you think about it, anything can happen. We could have a electricity sort of a resources drop, which is totally understandable in today's day and age. We know a collapse is happening at some point. We don't know how it's going to happen. And then you look at things like if a collapse does happen and the amenities that would diminish because of that collapse. Is anybody prepared for that? It's all right me saying, oh yeah, because I have got like literally, I'm a prepper. I'll admit I'm a prepper. I'm all prepped. I'm a lifeboat. But could I just sit there in the cold. Oh shit. Hello? Hello?
Hello? I was kicked out. I don't know why.
Yeah, it just said server connection lost.
Bizarre.
So that'd be Google, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Google's gone down. Oh, that's the end of civilization as we know it.
Ah! I will never be able to see giant cannibal eating green fanged spiders again. Whew.
Seriously, could you imagine if Google, a company like that, collapsed?
Yeah.
That would be. I mean, we're relying. Talk about reliance. I mean, if Google ever, if God forbid, if ever something ever happened to Google, apart from the tech geeks probably going on suicide alert because they can't do stuff anymore, and all students and all that, society would stop the function. Imagine how much people rely on Google to find maps, to look up stuff, or do their work for them. They can't be bothered to research it themselves from books anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that we are trying to make a difference in that kind of way, because I know a lot of people now that are, I would say books aren't the way forward anyway. I'm not
I wouldn't say either.
Dystopian. Like, I think that books are a waste of paper, and that we found ways that we can do it. Obviously, with the energy side, it'd be more of a economical solar energy kind of thing. And we would be able to use like Kindle. Huh?
You can't beat the smell of an old book, though.
They're going to smell even worse in the next generation.
A nice old book to rustle through the pages.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think books are quite useful in a lot of ways, and they are nice to not have to always stare at a screen every now and again when you're actually reading something.
Well, as somebody who suffers from migraine, I find it incredibly hard to read with a light in the background. So you can get like ones that aren't so bright now.
Did you want to mention, by the way, about the what was it, the 18th, the 19th?
Well, tomorrow we've got reoccupying, down at Parliament Square.
Oh yeah, of course. It's Friday. No, it's not Friday. It is Friday tomorrow.
Yeah, reclaim democracy, is it? So I think that'd be a good one. We've got Chris going down
Occupied democracy.
Occupied
democracy.
And I think they've got reclaim democracy there as well, haven't they? Well, that's one of their slogans for it.
I have no bloody idea. I just want to be there.
But Chris is going for Wave, so that'll be good.
Yeah.
Then after that, you've got Saturday. You've got the TUC, the pay rise. Britain needs a pay rise.
Mm.
Then on the same, right, joining up with that, they've got students, against like the fees
cuts.
and cuts.
It's a different theme every day for 10 days.
And then you've got like reclaim the city on the 18th as well. With,
that's yeah. I'm looking forward to that. I'll have to admit, I'm putting a lot of faith in that, guys. Reclaim our city. Make sure you do.
I mean, Occupy going right to about the 27th. I might be wrong there. It's about that date. It's the end of the month. And then that will bring us just nicely up to November the 5th.
November the 1st, you forgot. We'll be having Euro. I was going to say something, then I'm not going to say it online. Euro cops on the streets instead of normal ones from the 1st. I was going to use the P word. I'm not going to. I'll revert to TV talk.
We have been. Well, last weekend we were filming with you, weren't we, Matteo? Million Mass March. So.
Oh, that was brilliant.
And you're going to be filming at the Million Mass March, but you'd like to see that. Well, you might not, but Patrick said he'd like to see the water cannons out. I was like, no, it's all that.
I mean, I would like to film them. The only trouble is that if they came out, we'll probably get shot with a water cannon because we're a TV, because we're a bunch of journalists.
Me and Kiki would get it, because we'll go up there. Me and Kiki would get it straight in the face, because we'll be there going, fuck off, you can't do
yeah,
that.
you'd be staring down the nozzle probably.
Yeah.
Trying to see.
The flower! Put it in the flower!
A big orchid.
You probably have to put a bouquet in there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
shove
I
it.
heard you only have to get round the back and block the exhaust, because it runs on an
We'll
engine.
try it, even if we've heard it. We'll try it.
I mean, they're not bringing them out though, are they? They're not.
No, they're not. They will one day.
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, they will have it. I mean, they bought them. It's like, come on, Boris Johnson can't resist it. He's just bought a new toy. Of course, we want to check it out. You know, it's just natural.
I think they'll use it when I thought they would try and use it Saturday. I'll admit this Saturday is when I said that I thought that they would be using it as an excuse to use it. So I think if Saturday doesn't go so smoothly, that they will bring the water cannons out ready for the 5th, which would possibly be a very good plan on their side, you know.
I think that
we haven't got
They need an excuse. They can't just bring it up. They need an excuse.
I think
yeah,
that,
I think if
I think that what will happen is,
riot,
when the riot happens, they will push through emergency procedure. They'll
and
get
reclaim
support
the
and get emergency
state in.
procedure. But
Reclaim the
I don't
state
think that this will happen this weekend.
I did, but I don't now.
I don't know. I think what needs to happen is it needs to remain really peaceful to not give them that excuse.
Because that's what they'll use it for. Bring the cannons out. They'll say,
because all that's going to happen if you're going to chuck a rock, or if someone's going to chuck a rock, all that's going to do is that you're going to help them bring out water cannons. You know, it's not going to do anything on your part because Barclays can fix a window. You know, companies, they don't care.
If they stay there, I'll go and join them. The umbrella. You know,
we wanted, to hopefully try and get some people to just think, fuck it on the 5th and just stay out like the umbrella thing. See how many more people can join us. But people are like
the Chinese, like the Hong Kong people.
Yeah.
But people have jobs and it might not go too well and you might not find enough people willing to stay behind with you. Only time will tell whether that happens or not.
They'll wait until the people we're as desperate as the people in Hong Kong.
It has to be peaceful. Because
Occupy did it in St. Paul, so why not?
Yeah.
Occupy managed to pull it off, so.
The problem you might have is what restrictions get put on Parliament Square after this occupation.
I mean, Parliament Square is private land already anyway.
After the Brian Hoare incident, they put a few more laws and restrictions on it.
So there's not, I mean, what you're going to lose from there is not much else. I mean, there's very little that they can say in regards to that because we've lost all of our rights on Parliament Square almost anyway. You know, and just because they say you can't stay there doesn't mean you can't. Like on the 5th of November, people are going to march regardless of what happens anywhere or not. So it's civil disobedience as long as you're not going around beating people up. It doesn't really make a difference, and it does make a good statement.
Well, that's what the thing why it has to be, because we need numbers and we need more support, and you're not going to get that with shot. The BBC are itching to show us in a bad light. They're never going to show us marching, having a good time, and just being peaceful and spreading a good message. They're going to wait for that punch to fly, that shop window to get put through, and then they will be banged on every paper and every news outlet going. And
I'm sure that these journalists and so forth are there in the crowd, and they're told, bring out the cameras only where something gets smashed.
I tell you, we had photographic proof of that. Emily, I can't remember her name, but Emily, she took some pictures at the People's Assembly, and there was lots of cameras there. There was not any report on newses because me and Kiki kept bombing them. We kept getting in the background.
We wouldn't let them film.
But as soon as Black Bloc got outside the Parliament gates, and they thought it was going to kick off, all these cameras come over. Now, Emily just happened to put her hand up and take a picture, and you can see that these are top-notch quality cameras, ready to capture any trouble. But not one of them put an ounce of footage of that march, despite numbers.
They didn't manage to put the footage on because we were in front of half those cameras doing silly things like putting inflatable dolphins in front of them and pulling funny faces.
Cellar in the background.
Yeah. They hated it. They couldn't get away from it. It's like, no, you're not reporting on nothing bad. No, get out. GTFO. Go on. They give up. They walked away in the end. They couldn't film it. They literally the whole lot. We just
one took their tie off and got all aggravated.
She was like, "Can you move?" No, we can't.
The top where he took his tie off.
Was that Channel 4 or BBC? I can't remember. And that one who took his tie. They just give up. They give up. There was nothing they could do. They just the cameraman was even the cameraman was laughing. The
cameraman found it hilarious, and he was just getting pissy.
Yeah.
There's never a good bloody YouTuber about when you're doing something stupid like that.
They just give up after a while. We just kept going, no, sorry, won't do it again. As soon as he shot again, we'd like do the cellar stairs move and go behind
in the end,
him,
the reporter was going, are they back? They're there, aren't they? They'll turn him round just as the cameraman. They're there again, aren't they?
But you see, I mean, why can't they just... They can't get angry at that, because why are you just going to report on something negative? It's like with the student protests, you know, where they covered the 300 young people that went towards Conservative HQ. All the media just jumped on that because they trashed the Conservative HQ, as opposed to the thousands of other young people that were just marching peacefully, doing whatever. Everybody, every single news network jumped on the chance of covering young people doing something stupid.
I went to Balcombe. And I was at Solidarity Sunday, and they had them drummers there, and we were all dancing, and the atmosphere was great. But I got really thirsty. I really dehydrated because it was quite hot. And everybody offered me water. Some bloke in his tent, made me a cuppa and that. And I just think that with activists, they are so kind in that way, in a crowd, and they get a lot of bad press. They get a lot of they're made out to be thugs in papers, and they are actually the kindest people you're ever likely to meet. They will help you. If you're stuck in London on your own, they'll walk you to the tube station, make sure they're not nasty people. They're really kind and helpful. I would, at Million Mass March, I know I could probably turn around to the majority of that crowd and ask for £1 to go and make a phone call or something like that, and they'd all give it to me.
Yeah.
They go and walk down the bloody bankers' quarters, say you're lost, look a bit distressed, and ask for £1. How many of them would read on? Just fucking begging.
They just say, well, I don't have any coins on me.
I only have cards. That's fine.
We'll switch.
You
check them out in the
money.
I saw some what's it called? A guy walked around. It was actually a really good video of a guy that actually did that. He dressed up like a homeless person, just kind of scrubbing and so forth. And he went around Wall Street, went around the richest parts of New York, and went in Wall Street obviously and so forth. And he was begging for money. And one of the biggest things he came across was, secretly filming it, saying, "Oh, I've only got card." In which case he said that's not a problem. He took out one of those ATM things at restaurants. Cash back with that.
Oh, you see that Kurdish protest in London, where they did like a ISIS slave sale. They had all women in burqas, and they auctioned them off in the middle of London. They were all
really? I did not see that.
I think that was today. Earlier today. Or yesterday.
Oh my God.
But it was a good visual statement.
Very good. I mean, that is exactly what's happening. And it's not like they're lying or anything. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Polish women are being, sold off slaves.
I mean, I that's the thing I do love about activism, especially like the animal rights. They have some fantastic alternative, quick, short videos of protests that they've done, from wrapping people up like a piece of meat in the street, like in a plastic cellophane meat packet, and just left them there, to going into actual stores and doing stuff. And I think that activists are so creative in their ways that they
are.
I love it. I love seeing a different kind of protest.
I think that's the best part about being in the marches, is
Over
being
there.
around people that you can't look to the left and right and think I'm the craziest one here, because that's how I live my life day to day. I go to the school, I go to the shops, and I'm like, yeah, I'm most likely not thinking anything on the same lines as these people. But at these marches, you can look to the left and right and think, I bet they're way above my level. And I love that. I love I can turn
It's
around
great
to
not
someone and
feeling
go,
a freak.
I love it that I can point to someone and go, oh, look, Illuminati. And they'll go, you say that in the school today. I just sat there and thought today in the school, I made a joke about Nigel Farage. And I thought, that's lost. It's lost. It's not even, nobody's laughing. It's not even funny. But I know that if I just said that, you know, to us guys, it'd be like, you know, it's our type of joke, but it was totally lost. I looked like an absolute loon. I just realised, I love the
People are like that,
marches
though. They
so
just
much.
don't, politics and stuff just don't get it. But if you talk about Kim Kardashian or anything like that, or you know, they'll straight away become interested. Like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, what they were talking about
I really
casually.
don't
Get it?
struggle
Why
with-
is that interesting?
I struggle with people now. I just really struggle with people. Like, sometimes when Steve's friends come round and it's like, they start talking about EastEnders, or somebody mentioned like somebody who was on Strictly Come Dancing or something the other day, and I'm like, I don't know, I've got no clue what you. I don't know, and they look at you like you're a freak because you don't know this stuff. And then you start saying, well, how many cases of Ebola before you're fucking off out of here? How many cases have before
Yeah,
you're getting
they
out?
were all
Look at
talking.
you like you're a freak, and you just
They were all
like,
talking about casualty the other day, and they're all sat there in the playground, and they're going, I thought that I didn't realise what we were talking about, and they were going, yeah, so and so passed away, and they were going, do you know what? The most saddest part was when they held up the mics in the air, and I turned around and went, yes, and today in Gaza, approximately 8 children were, and I just think, what planet are you on? If that makes you sad, and you just, and today the missiles killed probably 30 innocent civilians just through one missile. Yeah,
can't do
and
it
casualty was
anymore.
great.
I can't do it anymore. And I feel really rude because I sit there and I'm really thinking of something to say.
Yeah, I don't. I'm like,
I'm a
yeah.
fucking celebrity or something to say other than anything meaning, because these people are just looking at you like you're a freak. And from there, the more I try to think, the less I can get anything, you know. So I'll come out with something retro or something, you know, way back. I don't know. But I give up now. I can't do it.
Yeah.
No, I can't do it
I remember
anymore.
when I was I normally end up turning something into politics.
Yeah,
Like, I remember when I went out with my friends, we met some people at the bar, and there was this guy from he was from Romania. A bunch of them were from Romania. I remember started talking to them how, you know, how the British media was stereotyping everyone coming from Eastern Europe, and we were discussing about how, you know, the media manipulates people's minds about all that, and they were really getting into it because they obviously had the brunt of it. I remember some of my friends turning around and saying, "You're talking about politics, aren't you?" And I said, "No, of course not." And so we talk about Eastern Europe. It's like, yes, you bloody are. Yeah.
I can't.
You can't help it.
You can't talk politics.
It just happens.
Look,
It's
they
not like
cloud
I'm making
over.
it up.
They
You know
cloud
why,
over.
Matteo? We're living it. We're living it, and this is the thing. Day to day, we're living it. There's not. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't breathe in an air that's not connected to what we think about daily now. When someone says something instantly, I think I reel through about 10 different freaking YouTube videos and links and stuff, and I'm like, no, that's wrong. No, that's bullshit.
It's really hard though. It's so that's why I do like doing this and meeting other people local that are of the same mind. Because for a long time there was nobody local. I was just like the local lady.
Just the cats.
There again.
Yeah.
It is like, and it does alienate you from society because, like I said, that joke today was lost on everyone, and I just felt so stupid. But I knew that I wasn't being stupid, you know. But I felt it at that moment. I was like, oh God, nobody here really likes me, do they? They fucking hate me. I don't want to be the first one to leave. It's like, oh my God.
Well, it's like one of those things, isn't it, where well, because well, you can't help but even if you know in society that you're in a group of people, and if everybody your joke drops or something like that, you sort of think, oh, you shouldn't care, but you always end up doing because that's just part of human nature. You do care what other people think. There is nobody in this world that says, oh, I don't care what people think. Everybody does. You're just good at hiding it. You
Yeah.
do care what people think, and when you're surrounded with people that care or that have the same interests, like in marches, like in protests or whatever, you feel at home because you don't
But
have
they
that worry
care
of
because
shit, you
you
don't like
care.
me, shit, I
They
can't
care
talk about
because you
anything.
care. They see it as the only way I can seem to get people. I hate using the word sheep, wake up, conscious, anything like that. People who are suffering cognitive dissonance. The only way
That's
I
much
can,
better.
yeah, the only way I can sort of get friendship from people like that in as such. Not that I do, because I've given up because they really don't like me. Is if I was to lend them some money, or that is the great help for them. That is when you're a true friend, is when you give them money, what you buy their kid for their birthday, what you dress your kids in, if you give them hand-me-downs and make sure they're all from Next and other places that use slave labour and toxins. But they literally, it's all bordered around what you can give to them rather than what you do. Whereas an activist, like P said, just a drink of water is like, oh God, someone be kind.
Yeah.
It's horrible because I come from the march, right, and I'm surrounded by people that are hugging, and I'm quite friendly. I'm very huggy. I'm very friendly. I'm very in your face, and I'm viewed in activist societies, and everyone will be like, "Oh, look, it's Kiki. Oh, hug, hug, hug." I go home and I'm like the irritable little bug, and like nobody's like, "Oh, fuck's sake, here she comes," and it's like. It's total opposite, and you wonder why people just don't want to be in this society anymore. But I've met people, and I know that people are good. They're just not always the ones close to home.
Yeah. I think that's the point, is that distance isn't really the point. And I think the other thing is that if you look at UKIP and the reason why they find it so easy to sort of unite, blend in and so forth and deal with the system, I think, like we were talking about earlier, is that because they like this system in the sense that they're the ones that talk about casualty, they're the ones that talk about money all the time, they're the ones that appreciate the worth of a piece of paper with the Queen's head on it.
But also the
See it what
UKIP,
it is.
they are very focused on people's fears. They feed people's fears and offer solutions to people's fears. They are fear porn.
It's
Was it
easy
last
to
year?
do
Last
that.
year they turned around and said that the rain was because of the gays. Fuck. How can anyone support that? And I was making jokes for ages, weren't I, P? For ages, it was raining. It's like, oh, there's a gay
And what was
around.
it?
It's UKIP.
Something about
Forget about that. Forget about that crap. That's the problem.
people from Umbonga or whatever he said.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Oh, yeah.
Umbonga.
And how do they buy
Oh,
into this?
these people. Do you know what I mean?
Rain and Umbongo, they're UKIP, they're so talented, they really are. I don't think we have to worry, because I honestly think that if the system does collapse, UKIP and its little cronies, they're not going to survive.
No, I mean, if
They're all
it
gonna,
collapses, I mean, activists are going to be fine. Because
yeah,
they're the ones that are reading all those weird manuals on how to survive without the system. They're the ones that are stocking up on tins and whatnot.
this was my stock today, right? I won't get out some of the seeds. Parsnips, heritage, make sure they're heritage. Pumpkins again. Peppers. And I really do think hemp is the way forward as well. So maybe hemp, not smoke it, it's not illegal to keep the seeds, is it? So they're the new ones. And my foraging book, I reckon P's kids have eaten. Because now
I reckon she's just gone crazy, lady. I never see it.
Dandelions and nettles, that's about it for me. They're the only ones I can safely get away with without the money.
You know what's funny though? Is that the other grouping in society that's going to survive are the rednecks in the south of the US.
Yeah.
they've been talking about collapse for generations. You know, they're the ones with the basements full of water and tins of beans and their own little energy supplies and.
I've got lentils, lots of lentils. If you don't believe me, I've even got a bag of lentils right here in my bedroom. I've got that many lentils.
Lentil queen. I can't stand
Yeah.
fucking lentils. Lentils.
When you're in our camp, you're gonna have to eat lentils with your nettles.
Lentils with your nettle sounds good.
I tell you what, when I'm in camp, I'm off robbing.
Robin P.
I go find some somewhere.
I think it's true though, we will survive if it came to our resources stopping and our energy stopping and our food stopping. We will survive.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I would strongly believe it. I mean, that's not the worry. I don't think the worry is total collapse of the system. The worry is if the system grips it too tightly.
Yeah, I think Nazi kind of far right, in a far right, very, and I hate using this word as well, New World Order, but in that kind of way, of a one international merge of trying to take over the world. Because if the world controls all the courts and banks and shops, then who do you fight them with? You know, who if you go to court against these people, they will always win. It's the most dangerous thing that could ever happen is a one world government.
I mean, the point of it, I mean, in theory, a world government wouldn't be such a bad idea in the sense that you need a world government united to fight climate change, for example, because these things will not be solved by independent governments, because if one government does it, the rest of them are still going to start polluting. So in that sense, I understand what they mean.
You mean in as such like an earth union?
Unearthly unity, like one country united by the world, something like that. The trouble is that when you can't get democracy to work on a little patch of land northwest of Europe called Britain, how the hell are you going to get it to work on a global scale? The point is we have to master it in a nation, you know, in one nation, because we've already started this sort of globalization of governments in the European Union.
Clearly, they're going in the wrong direction. They're going in the wrong direction because instead of doing things like, say, with education, where they could choose to opt, everybody now within activist circles knows Finland has a really good educational setup with the things that they do. Yet we instantly choose to opt for China, who, equally on the statistics board is the same as Finland, yet they have one of the world's highest suicide teen rates. So clearly the educational system is very flawed as well. And you look at it like that, and also Iceland. We don't hear about Iceland in the media. They don't adopt Iceland's way of thinking. No, they'd rather go and adopt, some country.
India or China or the US's way of thinking,
Yeah, exactly. And we just totally, they're not doing things for our own good. We know that for a fact. We know it for a fact. There's plenty.
Well, they're doing it for the 1%'s good, for the businesses is good. You know, they're doing it for those people that are immensely rich. For them, it makes sense.
We're watching the renewable energy. You know, countries have made 50% of their what they're supposed to over the so many years. Why aren't we following in their direction? They've done it, so it's clearly attainable. Why haven't we done it?
Well, I mean, Iceland, for example, is aiming for a moneyless society. You know, that is clearly the way forward. You know, dealing with resources and allocating resources to the point where we can feed everybody instead of only the ones that can afford it. The point is that, I mean, the trouble with it is that I believe that, I mean, you're talking about a world government. I think it is a good idea if the countries that are doing good work were the leaders in formulating that government. So, for example, Iceland, Norway, these countries that are generally doing it for the benefit, you know, they've got democracy right. You know, their governments are doing things for the people's benefit. And if they're
I gotta go a minute, but Chris wants to come in. Can Chris come in?
Yeah, sure.
It's about to get louder.
I've got to head off in, by the way, 9 minutes because I've got to leave at 7:30. So.
Say 9 minutes.
We'll get Chris in.
We'll tell him straight away that you've only got. We just say.
Where is he?
I've got nobody there.
What is that? Have you got a pig in your house?
Maybe there's my kettle.
That's your kettle.
Yeah.
Kettle sounds hurt.
I have to start.
Sounds like it's in pain, in severe pain.
No, the moment I buy one, it's planned obsolescence. So they're going to make me buy another one.
Is it? It's got a conscience.
It's got conscience. Like,
He wants to talk politics. Let the kettle speak.
Is it SOS?
it's trying to escape. It's had enough of overwork and slave conditions. He wants to save.
I don't know if Chris is coming in or not.
He will.
I'm probably going to have to go.
The invite is coming. But,
I was going to say I'm probably going to have to go.
okay.
Well, that's fine. And you just in time to say goodbye.
I know. I just saw. I just heard. I was just sewing it on there, and I just heard it's moment you say goodbye. It's no problem.
No, so I can stay until 7:30, so we're good.
There you go. You got 8 minutes. 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Oh my gosh.
No.
Well, I've been sitting and listening. From the animal hilarity to occupation of this, that, and plenty of the other, to your theories on how we communicate with animals. When you hear these two ladies speak now, like, you know, I'm part of Wave, but I'm the late addition. I'm these guys' work. I'm their experiment, social experiment. Oh my God, they're probing me. They're probing me. No, I mean this in jest. That what they talk about is actually practical and very achievable. You know, I've become a vegetarian from these girls listening to me. I've taken their advice on board and moved my life and been that change. When you hear people and activists talk, you feel that it's like so far in a distant future, and how can we attain to these things of an open democracy, or it not eating meat, or just doing these weird alternative things that you think is out there of the box. But these girls live their life like that. This is how it's done, man. It's like, all right, it is out there, it is fun, but it is immensely fun. And it's so achievable and so doable, man. So doable. That's the great thing that you can take from listening to these girls. You know, they are that change. They live that life. When they talk about activism, they talk about it from the literal standpoint, because it is their life to them. It is what they do. There is no dilly-dallying around. There's no tomfoolery in that way. All right, there is the lols, but apart from that, it's actual practical advice. So yeah, it's great to be.
I think in the same way though, is what you can come across as. I think I've found the perfect analogy for it. If I see a mother who's just given birth with a buggy, I run. I try and avoid them like the plague, because I know that right now, at that second, they are living, breathing, and eating newborn. Right? That's all they talk about. And I know that that's what they do, because that's their life at that point. So that's all they have to talk about. And I think it's the same with activists. We're living, we're breathing it, we're eating it, we're doing it all the time. So we have nothing else to talk about. We can't talk about TV because we don't watch it.
You can't do anything else. It's almost like it's all consuming.
Well, you said about it to your friends when you were talking about you being in the pub and you're chatting to other people, and you start to discuss politics. If I was to do that with the people that I used to know, and they'd be looking at me like some kind of weird alien that has come down, and what the hell are you talking about? Now, mate, talk about the match, talk about Strictly Come Dancing, talk about that show. No, I don't want to talk about politics. I do that kind of thing. They're like, what? The relevance to politics in your life is every decision you make. It's whether you choose to be ambivalent or not. And in this day and age of constant information, if you choose not to pay attention, then you're a fool and an idiot, because it's there and you're open. You said the other week when we was talking, Matteo, about media, and it is the most important thing that is out there. You control the narrative and the word of the people. You guide a society. That's open. Boundaries are gone now. We
That's
control
it,
our own media.
Dee. We're coming for you.
Yeah. I mean, the media, it's like what Gramsci said, you know, the media controls the way we think, what we do. What is interesting to us is the media. It's like, I mean, the Sun and the Daily Mail are the two biggest read newspapers in the UK, right? And it is interesting how the biggest talked about sport is football in this country. What's also interesting is that the most amount of coverage done on football is also in the Sun and the media and the Daily Mail. What you could potentially gather from that is that the reason why football is so big in this country is because the media keeps shoving it down your throat to the point where you have to talk about it.
It's almost become a religion.
Exactly, but the point is why, I mean, there is hundreds of thousands of other sports out there. Why has football suddenly become so big? Because the media love to report on it because it is what sells. They can get you to love it to the point where if it's on, you'll watch it. If it's there on newspaper, you'll read it. And then they can feed you the other rubbish. It's like the Sun. I was telling you earlier about the taxi driver. He was saying the reason why he read the Sun was because of the sports section at the back, because it is brilliant, he said. One of the best coverage of sport. The trouble with that is that if you read the back, you end up reading the front. You end up reading politics correction. And they can spew whatever rubbish they want because they know you pick it up for the sport. And then you casually start reading back the front, and then you cover the politics as well. And, of course, frankly, the naked woman on page 3 probably helps with their sales as well. The point is they manipulate the way you see the world and the way you perceive society. And that's it. That's all it is. And then once you start to become, as you said, you know, actively start talking about politics, start to see things, then you start to get almost like, it's not indoctrination, but there's a lack of a better word, to the point where you're thinking about a different society, you're thinking about something else, and you're just discussing something else. It is almost like you're a product of not reading the news.
Yeah.
Well, it's a de-indoctrination of what you've been slammed into you constantly for like how many years that you are. From like when you talk to Key about education, and you listen to P about different things within activism that she's done over a long period of time, and she says like this connectivity, this wasn't there before. People didn't have that ease to when they would meet up at a protest. That was that. There wasn't the means of communication, and like you said, there is no boundaries to the levels of communication now, where we are completely all on one level playing field. That, to the powers that be, is the scariest thing, because we can now control what we put out.
What I think as well, that the powers, like when you've got media, say like within education, in that kind of suggestion, that if you are to take your child out of school, the initial feeling is fear. Then the media will tell you that children who are homeschooled are socially not, they suffer socially, which is true. They can suffer socially if you allow that, because they don't have a whole class with them. These kids so they will draw on the negatives that is their fault. They haven't put community options in for people to home educate. They are meant to provide education, not just school. It's education they're supposed to supply. So whether that be at home or whether at school, they're supposed to give you that in some form. And when you talk about it like that, now people are made to feel bad. So the minute you turn around and you go, oh, my kid's home educated, they're like, oh, you dirty, unwashed hippie. What are you doing? It's like,
Well, that's how they consider it. They see it as a negative thing because the media tells them to see it as a negative thing. It's all about the idea of, you know, everything we've thought about, everything we've done is indoctrination. What's interesting is if you look at history, you know, prior to the fact that there wasn't, I mean, even ancient history, you know, the Greeks, for example, said that a society works when politics is people's goal 24/7, in the sense that they talk politics continuously. They see in society, you know, people back then they used to talk about politics in the pub. That was interesting. That was fun for them. That was what they enjoyed, you know, talking about, I don't know, about you know, even straight line politics, you know, about parliament, about their representatives, because in the end they are representing you. So of course you've got to talk about them because they are your voice in parliament. And then they talk about, you know, there are different laws that are going through. They'll talk about the way the world is at the moment. If you mention that now down the pub or anywhere else with a group of people, they will look at you like, why are you talking about that? Why aren't you talking about Kim Kardashian? Why aren't you talking about celebrities? Why aren't you talking about the latest scandal? You know, these are the important staples of life. You know, the fact that celebrities have naked pictures on the internet, that is what you got to talk about. That is life changing. not TTIP, not these other irrelevant things, that conflict that's happening miles away to a load of people in Gaza. That's not interesting. That's irrelevant. It's celebrities. That's what's interesting.
It's the normalization of triviality, Matteo, to make the trivial the most interesting trivial action the most be all and end all as a distractional purpose, man. We just keep the triviality going daily. We just feed you that little garb that you need of, oh look, didn't she look beautiful? Oh, I think her backside's getting a little bit too big in this. What use is that to humanity? Come on, mate. We got 50 years. Naomi Klein says we got 50 years.
Who else
Mate.
sits here sometimes gone out when it happens? You know, when you get a bunch of people and you stood there in front of them and you see them, they all go something about EastEnders, and who else sits there a bit gobsmacked sometimes looking like a twat? Because I do. I'm like,
my wife, she's very careful about who she will bring to the house now, because she knows if they say the wrong word, I am liable to just get up, walk out, or give them a tirade. And I feel bad for that, because it's like, well, hold on a second, I can't be dealing with your nonchalantness when we're facing a precipice of life and death. I know I've got to do some great things this year through these guys, meeting amazing people of different classes, religion, creeds, and we have
species.
Yeah, fishies. I got a fish in a bag this year. Great. It was a present. There you go, fish in a bag. Well done. If you get that connectivity of amazing people, you're like, well, hold on. There's a boundless, limitless expanse that we can come together and change and make this even better for everyone. An equal shape, an equal say, and an equal chance for every single person. I saw the other day the Aaron Swartz documentary, and when you see that and how we lost Aaron Swartz, and this guy was a genius, man, genius. And through his direct action, one kid found a way to screen pancreatic cancer, the most deadliest and form of cancer. If it wasn't from him being inspired by him, then we wouldn't have found it. Just that knock-on effect, man, and we're holding people back, holding them back. Frustrating.
Well, I mean, I was in Parliament the other day, and I met the family of this guy Tawfiq, who, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was one of the Libyan activists, one of the main Libyan activists pro-democracy, and he got assassinated quite recently. Really, really heartfelt discussion and talk. It was terrifying. And you sort of see how the realities of what some parts of the world are. And you sort of think, we have the power. I mean, this guy was fighting for the right to speak. We're fighting for the right to have a better life. They're fighting for the right to speak about a better life. They're on a completely different level. They're fighting for the right to say what we're saying now without being shot. That's the kind of level people are at.
And back down, didn't it?
We have the power to speak, to act, to do what we want in a certain aspect, to do these things without that kind of fear yet. But the point is that we don't use it. And when I saw this family and I saw these people that are still speaking out, like their brother was shot, was assassinated, and yet they're still speaking out on camera about what is happening. And yet we have people in this country that just are not interested in politics whatsoever.
We're suddenly now, we have become very at risk now. I do believe that the activists in the UK have become very at risk from these new things that are put in. We can be detained, we can be held under secret courts, and the first thing we'll know about our trial is on our way to doing our sentence. Do you know what I mean? We are at very big risk of trying to destroy democracy, whatever the fuck. I've never known democracy. The minute I was born, I have not seen democracy. I haven't visited Uruguay or Iceland or anywhere like that, so my view of democracy hasn't happened yet. But we are at similar risk of that happening to us. And,
we've lost the idea of the threat.
Stand up, are putting their necks on the line, and I think they're brave people, and I think they'll come through because we know what we're risking now. We've gone this far. There's no way we're going back.
Well, look, I am not going like it's fun to stay at Guantanamo. I ain't going with an orange jumpsuit and orange hair. It's going to clash. It ain't happening. I'm not having it, right? It's not working. It's not like the whole fashion thing. It's not going to work for me.
Boy.
I better learn to run, Forrest, run. I think that just the idea of...
Iceland's nice this time of year.
Oh man, I got Denmark on the island. I got Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, mate. All them European, maybe a little bit cold, mate. But I'm white as anything. There ain't no sun out there, so I ain't gonna get burnt. So I'm happy days. But when you talk about you being in Parliament and talking to someone that losing their power of the voice and fighting for what we have now, under the pain of death, without realising. The ambivalence of the normal people out there just is even more shocking to ourselves. That's why we get bored and frustrated with these, because we're looking at events all over the world. You're dealing with people that don't have a free voice, or they're just slated under the idea of, well, they're Muslims, aren't they? No, mate, no. There's 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. Just because you're talking about a small, entire little demographic, it doesn't create the whole compass of all that. Just because they're a different colour to you, forget about it. Walk away. You don't need the hatred. I just can't understand how we've just lost this. Well, I can, but that was a rhetorical question. Anyway,
it's that ideal. And what I think people need to realise, and all of us, I think, need to realise is, and I always have this same sort of spiel whenever I talk to someone, and I find it funny when people say, oh, I don't find politics interesting. And when you say, well, do you like sport? Yeah. Do you like fashion? Yeah. Do you have certain views about, I don't know, racism? Do you believe in religion? Then you're politically active, because the government can ban Islam if you're Muslim. They can ban Christianity if you're Christian. They can revert and remove black people's rights if you're black, for example, or a white person's rights if you're white. You know, these things weren't that long ago when black people or women didn't have the right to vote or to speak up. They were considered second-class citizens. So it doesn't matter if you like it or not, or if you find Parliament boring. You are interested in politics because you're interested in yourself and your family. If you truly don't care about yourself, I don't think there's a person in the world that truly does not care about where they end up in life. I don't think there's a single human being on this planet that does not care about something. Even if it's caring about just lining your your wallet, you're still politically active because you want more money. Even if it's just strictly out of self-obsession or self-want or this belief that you deserve something because you're born into a wealthy background, you're still politically active because you want to retain your wealth. You know,
politics is everything. Every decision you take has a political connotation that you just don't seem to realise because of your own ambivalence. It's not until you start looking at politics that you realise that your political choice is there daily to you, from whether you choose to pick up a certain product or not. Look at the way that Boycott Israel kicked into provision. It was just for a simple choice of like, right, well, that is a political statement that you have made there. You've chosen not to do that. You have made one of the biggest political statements that you could possibly make because you've withdrawn your acknowledgement of their products and the way that they work. I think it's until you decide that you've got to do something and you've got to go out there and do stuff, then you become, it's that first step, man. As soon as you go to one, you're never the same. You get your cherry popped, so it's always down. It's like, whoa, this is a whole new world. You equate to that.
The idea of education, though, as well, in the sense that we're taught to hate politics. I mean, I remember when I was going through A levels, which, you know, it was only 3 years ago. I was going through A levels, and I remember at one point I hated politics. Not because I was still political, but I hated the subject of politics because they made it so incredibly dull. I remember sitting there, falling asleep in class because it was the most boring thing in the world. And then when I used to go on the internet, check out things, you know, it was the most interesting thing in the world. And I was thinking, how the heck is that so interesting, and this so boring, and yet it's the same bloody subject. It's the same because they make it purposely boring and they divide it from anything in real life. So they put politics as this thing, you know, that's aloof, that is just for the rich, that is about Conservative, Labour Party, that's all there is about it. You know, Parliament is boring, but you kind of got to know about it, then you can ignore it once you graduate, it's fine. And then here's everything else that's important, you know, maths, English, sciences, that's what's important, but it's not connected to politics. There is no connection. You know, they purposely split it from your psyche in school. And that's what I realised, that I started to become less politically active when I took politics at A level. I started to become less interested because of it.
Can you imagine how exciting it could be, even from a very young age? Because I do believe that that this is something that can be taught in schools from a young age, not the schools we've got now. I mean the schools that we will have. optimistic as always. I think that I'll stop calling it school, education, where we would, from a young age, we would teach them. There's nothing wrong with saying, right, these people do this, and this has an effect on that, and that has an effect on this, and showing them, teaching them the effect of what happens, and the whole. That should just be school.
But you see, there are also really good
because it
teachers out
incorporates
there.
maths, it incorporates English, it incorporates everything.
Yeah. I mean, there's also some really good teachers out there. I mean, I remember when I was doing A levels, I remember having some friends that were in another school, and I remember we used to, because my school was quite small, they used to share quite some of their facilities with the other state/charity schools in the area. And it was quite funny because I remember going into one of their classes once because we had to join up the classes for politics, and it was one of the most interesting things in the world. The teacher was he was a little bit of an activist, to be honest, but he made it incredibly interesting. He was dynamic. He talked about current affairs issues. He related it to the children in the class, saying, what is your issues? What is your background? That is politics. Every single one of those kids became politically active. Not for the Labour Party or the Conservative Party, because some were left-wing, some were right-wing, whatever your ideals may be. The point is that they got interested because of the way that teacher taught.
I think that showing people that being of true inspirational, those first people that you really learn a lesson from stick with you through your entire life. That first thing that clicks in whatever kind of guise or walk or lesson that it is, it has a fundamental effect upon you. It sticks with you. It changes the way that you think and feel, and then you're more susceptible to real lessons. I've become a teacher, and it's been amazing. I never thought I'd be a teacher. Yeah, I don't believe it. Bleeding teacher. But yeah, anyway, your time is going on. You got to get going.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
It's 1:45.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
And see you on Saturday, by the way, Chris.
Don't talk about that.
He's getting nervous now.
Don't. No, I am. Yeah, I am. I won't lie. Yeah. All right. My underwear's matching the colour of my hair, but that's for a different day and a different story.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Is P there to turn the live off? P, you can turn the live off now.